listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to UppTalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say UppTalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it.
We have a standard report called Data Sources, which returns all the data sources that are available in Workday. This would be a kind of checkpoint for you. Whenever someone asks you something on reporting requirements, you need to actually go to this standard report initially. I think, till you get some kind of hands-on with reporting. What is the data source then? How to identify the availability of the data source in Workday? This is where the standard data source from the report, where you can find all the data sources that are available in Workday. There are around 2477 data sources that are available in this tenant, which you can pick that you wanted to have. You cannot create a new data source. You need to use the one that is already there in the system, which has provided by Workday. You cannot create a business object. You need to choose the business object that is available in Workday. Yes, there are certain cases. You will be creating a custom business object with custom field requirements. But other than that, you will not create any kind of when there is no field that are available. Let's say, for example, if you're not acquiring, if one of the organizations is acquiring a company, generally employee will be automatically generated when employee gets hired in Workday. Automatically, employee gets generated when employee gets hired into the system. But when new company is getting acquired by one company and that acquired company is already having employee field from the legacy system. Now, when you're actually uploading all this employee data into Workday, for some reason, your business decided that we don't want it to have. The Workday generates an employee, but we also have employee in our legacy system. We wanted to have that idea also to be populated for a particular point of time. Then we can have employee. What Workday will be generating can be used. But in general stage, we wanted to use that ID as an employee in Workday. If such kind of requirement is there, there will be only one employee that Workday generates and cannot hold any other employee. And here comes a kind of, different scenario to actually load, to actually have that employee from legacy system, which is their right. To actually hold that value, we don't have any, delivered field because employee what Workday generates will be holding. It will not hold any other employee which is generated by other system. But there was a request for a particular point of time. We will be continuing with the legacy ID from other system. In that scenario, you'll be creating a kind of this is too technical, but just to get you a kind of understanding, I'm giving. We'll be creating a custom business object under which custom ID will be created. Under this custom ID will be custom field. We'll be loading all that legacy ID information that employee can have two employee. One is Workday generated employee. The other one is which we've uploaded from other system. We call it as custom, a custom field. We've created a custom field under which we have actually mapped this legacy ID from other system. Other than that scenario, we will not have any kind of, at least in reporting area. You'll not have an option to manage any field outside of any field or any sources outside of what you're seeing in standard reports. These are all the data sources that are available here. And let's say if you get a request to create positions that are available in Workday, or all open positions, all closed positions, all the positions that are filled, kind of requires a requirement that you get. How do you actually make to that requirement and decide which source that you need to pick and create a report? Something in the positions is something that you can relate here. Just see if there is anything, any data source that manages position information. We have all open positions, all positions we have. Current open positions, we have all positions, including closed positions, the data sources. We have multiple data sources at related position. You can use any of this source to actually manage your data. Now let's say if your request to create all the closed positions, if businesses ask you to create all the closed positions, you already have a source called all positions. Pick this source, go for filtering for closed positions or go for filtering open positions. Go for filtering filled positions, which will give you all the intended information. Now let's try to create one report which gives all open positions. We'll clear on with all the three filter options which we have. Three status will be there in in positions. One is open position, closed position, and filled positions. You know the position, right? A position is nothing, but when employee is getting into hide, position will be created for an employee. And when it is created, it will be open. And when employee gets hired into the system, position will be closed and position will be closed as the position will get filled by an employee. These are the three kind of categories we have in position. Based on the request that you'll be getting from business, you'll be creating that particular report. Any questions here? Well, we're creating one report that pulls all all positions where you can filter. That's how you want it to have. If you wanted to go for only open positions, we have straightforward direct data source all open positions. But what if we wanted to have closed positions or open positions or filled positions? We'll be taking the source called all positions and we'll be filtering the data. Data sources which are available in two business objects. Both will work. But let's see the description which gives the result, what we are requiring. Access the position as a primary business subject and returns. One row per position includes filled and unfilled position. Exception position closed by closed position. Business process does not contain built-in prompts. This will give all the details which we are expecting and will not have any built-in prompt. And let's see the other one. Will push in my written superposition includes field restricted closed positions. Each person is evaluated as an effective rated current date, if not closed, available to date, closed date. That is, if the position is restricted, restriction is closed. The display of the position restriction will be showing work closed, does not contain any built-in prompts. Both will be returning the same kind of information without any kind of built-in prompts. Only the difference is this business object if you go with the position and job or staffing models. This is a stack, the effective dated one. It returns as of today. What are the positions that are available? You know it will be getting this one. This will not look for any kind of date category. It will look for even if you know future dated positions are created. Let's say for the next 6 months, you know you would have created a position. Target date would be somewhere around 1st of Jan 2023 would be a target. High date for that position. If you have created that kind of positions, this position will be, this source will be getting all this information, which is not a kind of effective dated one. The other one as of today, whatever the positions that are available in the system, be it closed, be it open, be it filled, it will be getting based on your report creation. Now let's go with this one, all positions. But the data source says except closed positions right, which except. If you just there, it says right except. What except? I mean in the description. It says it shows only filled and unfilled positions, except the closed positions. This one. It will fill and fill position except position closed by closed position. You'll be getting closed position also. There is a business process called closed position. When that business process triggers, the position will be closed when position is closed from that particular business object. This will not identify that position. Generally, whenever a position is edited, whenever a position opens, whenever a position closed, there is a certain business process that triggers. But I think this will be getting even closed position also. Let's see. Let's see. We have three status which we'll see. First, we'll see what are the options that are available to the status. Then we'll get to know what this gives. This gives all this kind of status open position, frozen position, filled position, and closed positions. Now let's create the data first, then I will go for filtering. Position. motion to. Target hire date for this position. First, which can fill the position on the organization. I think manager is actually owning this position. And any job acquisition associated with position. You can offer this position. Candidates who have applied for this position. Candidate is nothing but who will be a future employee in Workday. Once candidate completes all the hiring process, that candidate will be becoming employee. Administrator's position, location where the position is available. These are all the basic fields that you actually create for staffing. But anything specific, your recruiting will be asking you status, that we have frozen open positions enough. Now, based on this, you can play around with what status that you wanted to go. Let me explain you the status definition. When it is open, when the position is getting created and it is actually waiting for a candidate to get filled, that will be an open status and close. When you feel that the position is no longer needed, you'll be closing that position. For some reason you would have stopped recruiting, or for some reason you don't want to proceed with that position. You will be canceling or you will be closing that position field. When candidate has shortlisted, undergone with all the recruitment process and offered the candidate would have offered. And when that employee joins the organization, the position will get filled up. Frozen is one of the status where then the position is open and for some reason, for temporary period, let's say for 3 months or 6 months. You wanted to freeze that position, but you wanted to use that position in future. But for now, you wanted to freeze that position and you will be freezing that position. That kind of status is called, case is called labor's frozen position. A filter with any status that you wanted to have. Let's say if I wanted to look for frozen positions, how many positions are raised? We have a few frozen positions. Similarly, you can play around with what status that you wanted to have and actually create a report in that scenario. That's fair enough. Creating report is not the typical thing you can create, but identifying the source, identifying the business object matters here. If you are aware of that kind of identification skills, then you should be able to manage any request that you will be getting. Now, with the same scenario that I've given, I'll give you another request. And now you guide me how to actually manage that kind of report. Now we have seen position information. We were able to identify the source for the position. We were able to get all the required status of the position. Now replicating the same kind of concept or requisitions. I wanted to create a report which pulls all the job requisitions that are available in Workday. Now you tell me, based on this understanding, how to actually create a report that returns all the job requisitions. All meaning all jobs that you have workers already in or you want to hire into. Job requisition. When I say job requisition, there's nothing but before recruiting employer, worker requisition will be created. Requisition is nothing, but once position is created, requisition will be attached to the position and job posting will be done. And that's where you get. When job is posted, you'll be getting that position open in LinkedIn, on job portals, with the job description and all. That's the kind of job requisition. I wanted to actually create a report that returns all the job requisitions for the position that I have in Workday. How do you actually achieve this? Wouldn't that just be open positions? No, position is different. I'm talking about job requisitions. Maybe first we go to data sources and run the standard report. Check what is relevant to positions. What happened? Data source report. Select the data source. What source I have to select? Requisition. Requisition. All job requisitions. We can put the description there. That's what you first have to do. Whenever there's any request which you're not aware, when you don't know which business object that you need to choose, which source that you need to take. This is the one initially that will help you to choose the available data sources related to the requirements that you'll be getting. Now let me create report with all job requisition source. If you wanted to go with the index data source, you can also find all job requisition related sources within index also. You can also keep the checkbox as it is and look for all job requests. The reason why you go with probably remember, I think they would have not covered this for you. Probably we thought of taking some more additional time to actually talk on index and standard data sources. Since now we are creating, let me explain you the reason why we go with index versus we choose standard data source. Standard data source, with actually most of our report that we've created were on standard reports. You would have noticed whenever we create a report on any standard report, to filter the data to get any kind of limited data for that specific category, we used to go to the report filter. For example, just now we have seen all job requisitions, also all position. You would have gone to report filter and filtered with frozen closed. All these things that you have done. Since that was a standard report, you don't have an option to filter the data at the source level. You have gone to report level and you filter the data. But index data source is not that kind. You have data filtering options at source level only. Let's say now we have chosen the all job requisitions index data source. When you go here, you'll be getting an option to filter the data at source level. You can see data source filter is there. There are a few options that you can filter. But in case if those filters are not meeting the expectations that you have, but since there is a job requisition, you don't have much status that are available. But most of our index data source will have all the filtering options that you actually need to have when you're actually creating report. The difference between standard and index is index data source will be filtered at source level and can be filtered huge volumes of data, let's say all workers. When we created all workers as a kind of standard source and created a report, if you wanted to pull retirees, if you wanted to pull contractors, terminated or active, you go to report filter and do a filtering option there. But if you choose index data source, index to all workers, data source, you'll be having an option to source level only. You'll be having an option to filter retirees, contractors, terminated, active. All these things. You'll be getting the option to filter at source level. That you will not be getting again a chance to actually filter at report level because the source level only you're filtering the data and no need of actually filtering at report level. Here, if you see the reason why the source level works better versus the filter that you'll be giving at report level. When you see that report is actually filtering at source level, when you run the report, a report will not take additional time to look your filtering option because at source level only your report has got filtered. Now, when you run the report directly, it runs a report based on the source filter that you have given and returns the data. And similarly, when you compare this filtering option with the report level, you have not filtered at source level or standard data source. You are filtering at report level. And when you run this report with standard, it will actually go for all the you know. For example, take all workers. All workers is a custom report that you've created with the standard data source, and you filter with all retirees you know to get all the retired employees. Now, when you run the report, your report will look for all workers and go into each employee record, identify the status of retiree, and pull that employee record. If the condition satisfies, if employee is retiree, it will look for all the records and pull the satisfied record and will get you retired employee. This is how standard data source will work, and it takes little time for report to drill down into each employee record, identify retiree status, and pull that employee. Here you know, report will take little time to process the data. Now if you compare the same with the index data source, since you will be filtering at source level only, it won't take much time. The moment you click on run button, it gets a spontaneous result by getting data based on the filter that you have been at source filter because you're filtering at source level only. The report will not take additional time to get into each record and identify that one. Since you have filtered it, it will straight away identify that record and gets that one. Here report. Performance is actually optimized. That's the main purpose that we create an index data source report. Whenever you have a kind of data requirement that process very huge amount of data, it is suggested and recommended to go for index data source. But at the same time, there are certain limitations with index data source where you cannot have calculated fields. You know, all the calculated fields cannot be attached to index data source since it is actually restricted to give a better performance. Your standard data source can be created with all the calculated field functions that we have. But your index data source will not be able to support few of the calculated field functions that we have. If you have straightforward data without any kind of calculated field, you can actually go with the index data source, which actually gives performance in returning the data. But standard data source will take little time when compared with the index data source. It will take little time to execute the report. That's the only difference that you have. And most of the cases where you have a kind of complex reporting where calculated fields, a lot of calculated fields needs to be added to the report, then your standard report works better. Standard data source works better than the indexed one. Do you mean like in index data source, there cannot be any calculated fields? We can. We can create any calculated field, but the only thing there are certain kind of Let's say bonus is the amount. If you wanted to return bonus amount for an employee, we don't have any kind of, we have a business object called bonus, but we don't have, let's say, sign on bonuses. Sign on bonus is nothing but which would be paid for an employee as a kind of joining bonus in India. We call it a sign on bonus. We call it as an yes and other countries. We don't have any delivered field that returns sign on bonus. Now, in order to get sign on bonus, you need to actually create a calculated field by getting into the bonus business object to create conditions. You know the true or false conditions when bonus type is sign on bonus and add the true or false condition to another field to return sign on bonus. Such kind of, drilling down calculated fields has to be created for certain kind of requirements. Such kind of requirements cannot be fulfilled with index data source because when you say you're the index data source, all worker will be getting the same worker business object. But it has a kind of limited data that it will be actually drilling down. It won't be getting into that deeper into business object to identify the data. In that scenario, you'll be actually creating the standard report with index, with the standard data source, and you'll be playing around with all the calculated fields. We can create fields in index data source also, but it will not work that efficiently. How standard data source will look for, where you can drill down into multiple levels of field. Sign on bonus is one example. Bonus type. You're drilling down when only bonus type is sign on bonus. Get this amount of kind of calculate that you'll be creating where you're drilling down into multiple levels of business object and getting the data. But here in index data source, you will be not getting that level of drilling down into field level and getting the data kind of option. You'll be not getting an index data source level, but all the basic things formatting name, formatting text, formatting dates. It works as how it works in standard data source. But when we select optimized for performance and we look for some data, sometimes we don't get the name right. Is it because, like Workday has decided, this kind of specific data sources cannot be indexed? When you check, when you have related name, you know that you wanted to, let's say positions that we were trying right. We unchecked and we checked for positions. Now, similarly, I just kept it at the checkbox as it is. And if I look for positions, I'll be getting all the index data source. The spelling is and getting all the position related data source with the next one. You have a position one, but if I check this one and if I look for this data source, I will be not getting you have all the standard sources that actually are not part of index data source for all the positions. The positions for HCMM reporting is there. I think the symbol is different. This is a little different. Let's see what it is. You indexed only. This is not a standard. What if you look for standard? This is standard. This is indexed. Some data sources are available by default. You'll be getting, even if you don't check that those sources are available, indexed only. Those will be given workers for HCMM reporting. There are a bit of the when you wanted to optimize the performance of reporting. You know the play around with the source level filtering options and get huge volumes of data at filter by filtering at source level. Then your index data source works better than standard. But when you wanted to actually customize a lot of fields, tweak a lot of delivered fields with calculated fields, and let's say annual compensation statement, annual compensation report. Every year, employees will be getting their salary increase and all. You'll be creating an annual compensation report where all these companies that I was seeing rate bonus is one of the category and whatever the employee would have got paid. Bonus is one category. Sign on bonus, retention bonus, or any kind of special alliance COVID bonus kind of things will be there based on the organization. A lot of bonus amounts will be there in the system. When you wanted to create a lot of calculated fields to return each of these amount category, then your index data source will not work because the purpose of index data sources is to reduce the performance. And I know it runs very quickly in returning the data. But when you actually add a lot of calculated fields in the report, the performance of the report will get reduced. Because you have created a custom field where it will not be looking for the delivered data, it has to execute the calculated field and make to a situation that condition will be getting satisfied when there is only a bonus type of single sign on bonus. Then you get with the value kind of conditions you will be specifying. Probably you know more about calculated fields after our reporting concept. But just there are a lot of things that will be logical conditions you will be specifying. True or false conditions will be specifying. Evaluations you will be making in calculated field. Such kind of huge. You know the logical conditions that when you mention report will obviously take time to actually execute and make sure the condition is getting satisfied and returning the data. Such kind of cases, you need to obviously go with standard because you need data accuracy, right? If your index data source is not giving the data, it doesn't mean that you should not go with that kind of requirement. The Workday suggests and recommends that you do not use multiple calculated fields in the report. But what if your requirement demands annual compensation statement is? Most of the customers will be creating and they'll be having a lot of these requirements. Bonus is one of the things, and stock. Employees who are getting stock amount has to be returned in the report. And the LTI kind of thing, the kind of alliances that are getting all these things, you'll be showing an annual compensation. A lot of data will be there in compensation related report, and that requires huge amount of calculated fields to be created. When there is a demand that the data has to be returned, there is no way that you can actually bypass that requirement without calculated fields. Calculated fields has to be in the picture to tweak the data and to return the data. When you have such kind of requirements, you need to go with the standard data source. That's where the main difference comes between standard and index data source. Now coming back to our requisition one. We checked all job requisitions right with standard one. Job requisition. There is nothing but job requisition ID attached to the position. Position attached to this job requisition. One job requisition can be attached with multiple positions. That's the reason why you're seeing multi-instance field. And target heritage. Job requisition status. Hiring manager. These are the mostly used two reports in the recruiting. Job requisition position. I think these two reports will help you in actually managing recruiting related reports and candidates. The candidates. Supervisory coordination under which job requisition is getting created. Which you look for all the available job requisitions in the system. I'll talk about what is our position in a while once we see. We have around 470 requisitions with a different status. We have all these kind of status related positions in the system. Now we've seen when you actually choose job requisition data source and run your report. You'll be getting a checkbox called Include Evergreen Job Requisitions. Evergreen job requisitions are nothing but which will be open forever. There are certain kind of requisitions which will not close actually forever. Those will be active. Other normal requisitions will be after the position gets filled. That requisition will get closed. Our requisition will get filled actually. And it can be frozen as the other status that I was talking in position data source. You'll be having same field open, closed and frozen status. But evergreen job requisitions are nothing. But the system will be asking you, do you want to include even evergreen job requisition in the system? If you check the checkbox, those will be included. If you don't check the checkbox, evergreen job requisition will get excluded. The meaning of evergreen job requisition is there are certain positions that you'll be hiring. Most of the scenarios, you don't want to close that requisition and attach multiple positions to that one. Let's say you know VP under CEO of the organization. CEO will be there in the company who will be managing the entire organization hierarchy. And the vice president is one of the position which you wanted to have evergreen. Once you attach, you create a vice president position under CEO of the company and requisition. Once the vice president gets hired, you'll be attaching one more requisition to that evergreen, one more position to that requisition. Director of the company, you'll be creating one more position and you'll be attaching this position to this requisition. Where you're not, having any kind of field positions. At the moment that the one position gets filled, you'll be creating one more position and it will be attaching to this evergreen job requisition, which is nothing but the position will be active all the time, which will not be closing, which will not be getting filled because the definition of it is going to be open ever, forever, that there is no need of creating multiple requisitions again. When you have such kind of evergreen job requisitions to create it, when you check this checkbox, system will return you all the evergreen job requisitions. And if you wanted to know what are the evergreen job requisitions, you can add the same field. Same, this one, I'll be getting evergreen job requisitions in the report. And if you wanted to know what are the evergreen job requisitions, since you added that field, you can filter here. You see, if there are any evergreen job requisitions, you will see. These are all evergreen job requisitions that are available in the system. We will be having multiple positions attached to this one. And if one position is getting closed and the other position will be attached, like that multiple positions will be attached to this one, which will be open forever, kind of thing, where you can access. You can consider that as a kind of evergreen job requisition. Click. Any question? In recruiting, these are the major two sources that we'll be using. People might be asking, get me all evergreen job requisitions or the requisitions that are closed in the last 1 week, requisitions that are open from last 1 year, kind of thing. People will be asking. And in that case, you need to go to the same kind of source that we have taken and create a report. These other than these two sources, I don't think you'll have any other source that you'll be creating. You'll be creating in the recruiting area because the recruiting is nothing but candidates. Candidate is one thing where you can create candidate report also for recruiting to ask, get me all the active candidates. And probably you need to choose the same scenario and create a report. Other than this, candidate positions and requisitions, other than these three concepts, you don't have any other term in recruiting. Mostly, you'll be playing around with these three sources. Now, as an activity, go ahead and try to create a report with candidate information with any status Create a report with candidate and try to get a report with all the data fields. How you can take any of the data field that is there in the business object, but that should return candidate information. Go ahead and take this as an activity for tomorrow to get a report for candidates. And tomorrow we'll be looking at one more advanced report with the reviews performance related report we'll be creating, and then we'll be jumping on to our other report type called matrix. We'll be jumping on to matrix report after creating employee performance related report. Then we'll be jumping on to matrix report. We'll see how matrix report will be created and how creation will be. Options will be a little different, but filtering on all as how we are filtering here. We'll be filtering the same, and choosing your data source will be the same process, same kind of thing. But only the thing is giving the data to the matrix report and running the report and viewing the output is a little different than what you're seeing in advanced. That is one of the main report. Also, after advanced matrix report is the mostly used report. We'll be working on a few use cases related to matrix report in our tomorrow session. Before that, go ahead and try to create a report with candidate information. Then we'll jump on to other report, what we discussed, performance related report, and a few other reports related to matrix. For selecting the data source, you told us to run all data source, right? But what we do to select the field? If we are not sure what field to use, how do we do that? There is one more other report called report fields. Report fields are there all the calc fields. If you won't give any kind of prompts here, it will look for all the business subject and all the fields in the Workday. But if you know any business object, you can view that particular business object and run it. It will return only the fields from that business object. Now I have not given any of the business objects here. It will run for all the business object and will return all the fields from all the business object. I think more than 5,000 is there, which will take a little time. What I'll do is I'll just give any specific business object. Let's take worker, which is mostly used object. You can see all the fields. From the business object, you can see around 4,000 fields are there on a business object, and you can filter any of the related field that which you're not able to identify. Even calculated fields will be also as part of our report fields. We'll be getting all the fields in the delivered fields. And it's the delivered report. And similarly, for which business object we want to use. Business subject. Business subject detail is one standard report we have. These are all certification questions when you wanted to go with the reporting certifications. These are all the things that you will be asked. What is the report that is used? Get all the business subject in the system. This is the report. All the things that I was saying, right? Standard reports. Those are all your certification questions. That's how we actually identify the business objects that are. But here it's actually a kind of required thing which will be actually getting you. There is one more. Let me see if there is a more standard report which will not ask or prompt for any required field. What this report gives is it gives you business object and all the related business subjects that are linked to business. Primary business object. These are all the related business subject that are linked. There is one more business object, instance of something is there. It should not be a kind of required category. And this is the only one. There is no other report. Let's see. I remember there was one more report. I can choose this one also. That was reported and was admission to be the category of each business object. The report uses business subject report as a data source. You can use this one. There's another report and actually go for business object details, which actually gives you all the business objects and also business objects by category. It will ask you which category that you wanted to select. To address compensation kind of things will be the right. You can choose that from this business object category. This is not the benefits. If you click on benefits, what are the business subject available in benefits module? We're getting state for exim, all the business subjects available in compensation. Similarly, you should also get for benefits. But I think benefits is not enabled for this tenant. I believe that's the reason we are not able to get. Similarly, by selecting the category, you should be able to get all the business objects for that particular area. And we are done with the filters, right? Is there any chance we will be covering the inbox filters, my inbox filters? What does my inbox filter mean? We have here, right in the right corner, this one, inbox. This is not a part of reporting. Actually, this comes based on the security. The security, whatever security that is assigned to you based on your security role, you'll be getting an option to your inbox to take action on that one. Let's say your HR administrator. All the related tasks you'll be getting doesn't mean that you have to take an action, but based on the security setup that you will be getting action where you're supposed to take an action. Let's say, there are 10 members in our team who are assigned with HR, administrator security group, and who then, among those 10 members, 2 members will be actually taking care of all the support requests that you'll be getting. When employee gets hired, approve that hire or, trigger onboarding business process kind of things. All those related things will be performing. People who are assigned with. So that is inbox, right? What I'm asking, like, how do you filter stuff? There is something called inbox filters because I had a request when I joined first. My first request was to create an inbox filter for one of the team. like the payroll manager. She wanted to manage her tasks. She wanted to assign tasks to everybody, but she wasn't aware, like who has done what. Some tasks were pending. She asked me to create a report, but then her security did not allow to view few fields. The solution, what my lead gave us like to work on inbox filters. There was something called separately inbox filters, through which she was able to manage her work like whom she should view, like whom she should assign, something like that. Let's see that one, but let me see inbox filters. I think there's a task, or I don't know, but something. Let's see if source is there. What it actually returns. If that is a kind of requirement, I can cover that also. But before that, we need to know if there is any source for that inbox thing. We don't have any source. It was not through report. It was through the inbox. Like, can you please go back to the inbox? You said your lead has issued some report that to manage this thing right. We tried to create a report, but she wasn't able to view it because of her access. But then they were able to filter the inbox through here. Maybe the left corner, you have options right. You can just hover the left corner. Now the left corner. These options, like these are dashboard related things. Dashboard. Is there something? I'm not sure. Maybe I can ask her, like tomorrow I'm going to office. Maybe I can ask like what it is, and if there is a chance like we could cover, if it comes within this topic, then I can cover that. It's not a matter. But only thing is inbox. You know that works based on the security wherever the action has to be taken on the items that you will be getting. And if you wanted to create a report on all the items that are sitting in the worker inbox, we can create that one. And I need to know actually what you're expecting when you say inbox filtering and all. What we can cover. I will get to know like tomorrow's session. I will let you know. And probably if something needs to be created and something needs to be transitioned, I'll be getting you that as well. For tomorrow's session, other than what we discussed, candidate report is one of the tasks that you can take it and get with whatever candidate information that you wanted to get. Try to get that one. And after that, we'll be creating one performance related report and then we'll go for matrix. This week, we'll be covering all the report types that are available with the reporting model. And mostly we'll be able to. If there are any leftover reporters, we'll be covering next week. And once we are done with the reporting types, we'll be jumping on to calculated fields. And even when you are creating calculated fields, we'll be creating multiple reports. With multiple use cases, we'll be covering a lot of reports with calculated fields as well. From there, I think you should be good. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@upptalk.com.